Hallelujah! We thank our God, the one to whom we belong, the one who gave us this day. We thank Him for receiving our actions. Please, we thank all our viewers from their position, that the peace of Christ be upon each one of us. Today we are here. We are here to be able to speak about the life of the prophet Moses. Moses is one of the elect, the one to whom God has revealed Himself. God spoke to Moses from mouth to mouth. It is to him alone that God has testified in the Bible. We will talk a little about his life. Moses was the son of a Levite. If we take Exodus chapter 2 from the first verse, we will see that his daddy is a Levite. His mother is also a Levite. Levi was the third of Jacob's 12 sons. It is from the house of Levi that God was pleased to choose. Moses, his father and mother were in slavery in the land of Egypt under the direction of Pharaoh. When the children of Israel were in bondage in Egypt, it was in bondage there that his parents were married in the land of exile that was called. Goshen is a really special land that Joseph gave to his father, so that his house could live on. And they did multiply on that earth there, and years after about 365 years. It was in those years that God gave the seed of the Savior to the earth to be able to deliver the children of Israel. Moses was born into slavery. This Moses, his birth was really miraculous. And the Bible shows that Moses was born under the law. This law that stated that all males born were to be killed, and the females spared because the females did not have vigor like the males. Because the children of Israel in Goshen were really robust and strong. They were stronger than the sons of Pharaoh in the land of Egypt. This Moses was placed in a basket filled with tree leaves and placed on a river by which Pharaoh's children had just bathed. And the current of that river carried him away. And the Bible shows us that Pharaoh's daughter heard one cry. As a child on the river, she found that it was an evil, and she said to herself that it is surely one of the Hebrew descendants on the head of Goshen of the slaves, because the mother did not want her child to be killed, because at birth she found that she had had an evil outside the law said that all evil born should be killed. This child was spared. But she couldn't keep it for long because people will find that she had broken the law and it was bad in foreign countries. When his mother put him on the water, Pharaoh's daughter found him. And without not the Bible told us that Pharaoh's daughter took care of the child until he grew up, as she knew that Moses had been pulled out of the water. Therefore she called his name Moses, a child drawn from the waters. Moses. This name was given to him. Growing up, Moses knew through history that he was of Hebrew origin, and his parents were in Goshen, so he was not of Egyptian origin, but Moses was raised in Pharaoh's palace. It was Pharaoh's daughter who had found her, and he grew up there, and became a great warrior. From time to time it occurred to him to visit his brothers in Goshen. One day, while walking in Goshen, he saw a Hebrew brother being mistreated by an Egyptian soldier, who gave him forced labor. He knew he was like a child of Egypt, but the Hebrews were one of his brothers. So Moses jumped at the throat of this warrior, killed him and buried him. and his body was never found. Moses then defended his Hebrew brother and the one who mistreated him. Moses killed him so he could defend his brother on another visit to Gozan. He noticed two Hebrew brothers fighting, and he separated them, telling them that they are brothers. Why are they fighting? Asking if he had come to kill them as he had done the Egyptian soldiers. Moses believed that he had done him good, that he could not denounce it. When the Egyptians heard about it, they went to tell Pharaoh. And Moses fled. In his flight, Moses found himself in the land of beggars, a land that was poor in men, that is, more women, few men. Moses was so tired, he didn't know where to go. He was so tired that he sat down by a well. This well was used by shepherds to water their sheep. Raising his head, he saw a woman. This woman wanted to water her flock, and the shepherds who were there wanted to bribe this lady there, or it was to monopolize her flock. Or the abused Moses took the defense of this shepherdess there, by preventing these shepherds from the abused woman because she was a woman. Moses rescued the shepherdess, helped her water her flock, and she left. When she got home, the shepherdess told her father that she had met a man who had helped her water his flock. For there were some shepherds who wanted to bully her like they used to, and her father Jethro told her to go and take that man there. Why had she left him? So she took Moses. Moses came to his father. Moses told his story, and Jethro invited him to live with him, because he had no son to help him. He will shepherd his flock from now on, so that his children will no longer be oppressed. Moses accepted, and the father offered to give him the hand of one of his daughters if he wished, in order to take up residence there. Having nowhere else to go, Moses accepted the father's proposal. She was the first wife of Moses. The Bible tells us that one day, while Moses was tending the flock, he saw a flame of fire in a bush. He noticed that the bush was not burning. Moses saw that there was no smoke, so he decided to turn away to see why the bush was not burning. As Moses watched, he heard a voice. Moses, Moses, remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you stand is holy ground. When Moses saw no one around him, he was afraid and fell on his face to the ground. Moses was afraid, and God said to him, I am the God of your father, the place of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. For I am the God of your fathers, the mission I want to entrust to you. I have heard the cries of the suffering of the children of Israel. Their cries reach my ears. I am sending you to deliver them out of Pharaoh's hand. Moses says the task is not easy. This is a great mission, because he knows very well what is happening in Egypt. For it is no great miracle that he was able to escape from Egypt that he will not be able to go there. He began to argue with the voice, and God told him that he would surely send it. Moses said to the Lord, I am not a man who is angry speech. Yeah. God replied that he had made man's mouth. And once I face them, what sign am I going to show them? So that he might believe that you, the Lord, have sent me. God told Moses to put his mother under his garment and take her out, which he did, and his whole hand was full of lips. He reintroduced his hand, and it became like his flesh again. And the Lord said unto him, Throw down thy rod upon the ground. And he did, and it became a serpent. And Moses was afraid. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand, and take hold of the part of the tail. And he did, and the serpent became a rod. But if he asked me what his name was, what would I say? God told Moses, I am the one who follows. God made Moses a prophet. After God there was Moses. This is why all the predictions of Moses in Egypt were fulfilled. God gave Moses his name. And if he asks me where he dwells, God tells him, Just tell them that I am who I am. Moses went so far as to argue with God, refusing to go. God told him that he would certainly go, but that she would show him who would accompany him. He is none other than his brother Aaron. God said he was going to send Aaron to him, and sure enough, when he came down, he met Aaron, and Aaron asked him where he came from. He asked him, Where are you from? And Maurice answered that he had fled Egypt. He asked for her hand. Why did you run away? He said himself, he doesn't know what happened. And he says to him, That's what God told me. The two of them hit the road. When he got home, he told his father-in-law, Jethro, all that had happened, that God told him to go to Egypt so that he could deliver his children. Jethro asked him to leave, for he had already been with him for 40 years. So he left with his wife and children. He encountered many difficulties on the way. The point to remember here is that God commanded Moses to say, I am the one who follows. When Moses was in Egypt, he gathered together all the elders of Israel, for he knew them. He also controlled the country. He is not a foreigner, and he knew the country very well. He knew Gozan, and knew the ancient Egyptians very well. He gathered together the elders of Israel and told them, how had God sent him to deliver them? And the elders of Israel asked him, What is your God's name? And he said unto them, This is the God of their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And his name is, I am that following. When Moses answered, the elders of Israel were silent, and they made the plan, and all together they went to Pharaoh. In the capital of Egypt, arriving at the palace, they met Pharaoh. And Moses said unto him, God commands thee to let the children of Israel go out, that they may go and worship me at the head of Canaan. Pharaoh replied that he did not know God, and would not let the children of Israel go out of Egypt. Where are you from, and why did you give up? Works by the children of Israel, and you're telling me that God asked to let them out of Egypt for daring to do this? I give this order. I order today that we multiply the tasks that they are going to accomplish, and we are going to increase their suffering. Why did they leave the work? What God asked him to leave, it increased the suffering of the people, or our God. He is a God of justice. He told Moses not to bother, to stay calm, who is going to show Pharaoh what he is. Because once before Pharaoh he asked him, Your God, what is his power? Show us the power of your God. She threw her rod on the ground, and told him that God told her to do it. When Moses' rod fell to the ground, it turned into a serpent. Pharaoh mocked Moses, saying, "Is it because you have made your rod into a serpent?" That's the problem. So he gave his diviners who were taking away around him to turn their rod also into a serpent, so that Moses could see that they were also capable. So he threw 2 yards on the ground that turned into 2 serpents, but to show that the rod of Moses is not a rod like any other, and that the wonders of God are more powerful than the wonders of men. The serpent of Moses swallowed the 2 serpents of the Egyptians. He swallowed them alive, and the 2 serpents disappeared, and were found in the belly of the serpent of Moses. Moses continued. The snake by the tail which turned into a rod, and he took it. So the Egyptians did not have the rods which were deposited on the ground were no longer like this. All the powers of Egypt which were in the snakes are now found in the rod of Moses. So Moses took his rod again, and it is the rod of the Egyptians. Where are those rods now? All the rods of Egypt were in the rod of Moses, so all their magic was absorbed by the rod of Moses. Therefore, to show his power, first, God withheld them from having water for good, for water is life. So he commanded Moses to cast his rod into the water, and all the waters would turn to blood. Why would the waters change? In blood, because the waters belong to God, water being life. God shut that fountain to them there, saying, "Oh, I know none of them will enjoy that fountain of life." So he drank no more water for 7 days, and all the water turned to blood. Even the waters were already all transformed into zinc. No one drank water in Egypt. Thus, to show his power, Pharaoh ordered the gravediggers, who have the ability to dig holes in 1 day, to do so. But even deep, they had no water. It was nothing but blood. It was because they had provoked God's wrath. God's first punishment was hunger and thirst. There was no water for 7 days. Moses pleaded with God that he might ask forgiveness of his God, so that the Egyptians might have water to drink. Moses says, "The only condition is that you leave." The children of Israel came out of Egypt. Pharaoh agreed, and Moses stretched savage into the water. And all the waters of Egypt became drinkable again. This proves, for to God belong the world, and all who dwell in it, the world, and those who dwell in it. No one can do anything apart from God. Moses did many wonders in Egypt, for God had established. Moses is a prophet, and Moses had the fear of God. God asked Moses to breathe in the thrust of the earth, which he did. And all the Egyptians had their bodies filled with abscesses. God commanded Moses to look up to heaven and order the hail to fall, which he had God tell him to tell Pharaoh. They will not benefit from their crops. Everything they planted went up in smoke, and insects invaded all the fields and destroyed them. He did many wonders in Egypt. The greatest of all of this is that God asked Moses to do one last sign, this sign that will force Pharaoh's hand to let them out of Egypt. They will not leave Egypt empty-handed. Pharaoh will give them wealth. God will order him to ask each Israelite household to have a lamb, a lamb, a lamb, and especially a lamb without blemish. God asked them to kill the lambs and mark the posts of their houses with his blood. In doing so, there's an angel called the angel of death that John spoke of, and an apocalypse. So this angel there, I want to command him to visit the land of Egypt. God will command the angel of death to visit all the houses that have not been painted with the blood of the Lamb, and that time will kill all the firstborn of houses that were not painted with the blood of the Lamb. If the father of the family is a firstborn, he shall die, and his firstborn son shall also die. If the mother is a firstborn, she shall die. If it is a daughter who is the eldest, shall also die, and the firstborn are dead. He commanded the children of Israel that every man should get his own lamb, and he takes pride in it. According to the will of God, this fight there had not been revealed high children of Egypt. Only the children of Israel who were aware of this fight made their arrangements. And at 0 o'clock, the angel of death visiting all Egypt. So all the firstborn of Egypt were laid waste from the house of Pharaoh. Even the Egyptians, all the firstborn were killed. Fortunately, this Pharaoh was not the first of his family, otherwise he would have died too. So the firstborn of Pharaoh, what he really counted in order to be able to replace him tomorrow, suffered the same fate as all the first Egyptians. No Egyptian family was spared, except among the Israelites, and all Egypt cried out for the dead. Weeping for the dead until early morning, all the Egyptians revolted against Pharaoh and asked him to give Moses to depart with his people. Before dawn, Pharaoh ordered Moses to leave Egypt with his people, because they had already killed too many people in the land. Moses says, "We will not go out. We will not leave empty-handed." They asked for food that was given to them by Pharaoh. He brought them out with haste, and the children of Israel came out of the hand of Pharaoh with many goods. When they finally emerged, Pharaoh believed he was already safe, although he was far from being out of trouble. God hardened Pharaoh's heart to demonstrate why he had questioned who God was. In chapter 5, who will show him what he is capable of? The lesson to be drawn from this first part of the story of Moses is that whatever your actions, when you remember God, you have to bring the earth back there. No one can go against yours of God, nor speak against God. So those who have a habit against God just have to stop. God is God, and it is God alone who wants to respect and know how to speak. Whatever happens when you are told the remembrance of God, you must always calm down when you make the pan and you glorify yourself, and you are egotistical, God will kill you. If he does not kill you, he will kill your children, and then you are your husband, and then you are your wife. Snatch away your job, he can snatch away your peace, he can snatch away your happiness. Why is it? Because God kills. If he didn't kill, he has why he killed all the first. Egypt does not mock God in words. Pharaoh mocked God, and God showed him that he was not mocked. God engulfed all of Egypt. Even there were rains of fire, they stayed in the Suend for 7 days. It was really miraculous before them, beloved. Then it's Jesus Christ. To fear God, let us fear God and glorify him. This is what Revelation 14 verse 7 tells us. Let us fear God and glorify him. If you fear God, you will have happiness that farewell, strengthens and assists us. We will return for the 5th part of the story of Moses. Hallelujah.